Not only is this history in the industry, it's the recognition of the first TTRPG union. It's also voluntary recognition, which is huge, that a company, any company in any industry, chose to respond to their workers unionizing. They just said, okay, you want a union? You're a union.
Yeah.
And that's so, so beautiful.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another excellent episode of Professional Idiocy. I am James, co-host of this podcast, and just generally glad to be here today. It's been a very good day for us. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Barat.
Alive and with a better microphone this time.
As always, joining us when it comes to Paizo-related topics, it's Tylen.
How are you doing? That's me.
Audience, let us know how you're doing in the chat when this video gets published. We want to know. We are joined by two excellent guests from Paizo and freelancers, and you know what, we're just going to introduce them because I need to stop talking. Up first we have Jenny Jarzabski.
There you go.
Oh, I practiced that like 7 times.
All good.
And we are also joined by freelancer Jessica Redicop. Yeah, see, I'm bad at names. Yesterday, we got a cool announcement from Paizo. They have voluntarily accepted the first unionization of TTRPG history. So I just want to know, we'll start with Jenny. How do you feel about this?
I'm pretty excited and happy that, that this happened so quickly. I think we spent a lot of time preparing for this, and there was a lot of coordinated effort, both from the staff and then and the freelancers, as well as they kind of pivoted their message to support us and our unionization. It's been really exciting, and I never expected it to be. I guess I was expecting it to maybe be a little more difficult or just to take a bit longer to hear from the executives or the leadership team. And I'm really glad that happened. But I know at the same time, I'm allowing myself to have kind of this celebration and a brief moment of rest. But I know that the work is really only just beginning, because we still don't have a contract yet, and we'll have to negotiate for that. And so, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. And just kind of saving the thoughts of what to do next for Monday at this point. Be my party weekend.
So what about you, Jessica? How are you feeling?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm ecstatic that the union was voluntarily recognized. It's fantastic. Not only is this history in the industry, it's the recognition of the first TTRPG union. It's also voluntary recognition, which is huge, that a company, any company in any industry, chose to respond to their workers unionizing without trying to do any union busting. They just said, okay, you want a union? You're a union.
Yeah.
And that's so, so beautiful. For the freelancers, like, a lot of us, we have kind of a weird position in the industry, and like, we're outside of Paizo, but we work so closely with so many people in Paizo that we have a very different vantage point than just fans do on what's happening inside the company or the way that people are being treated. Because a lot of the people who work at Paizo are not just our coworkers or people who we accept contracts from, but in many cases, we go to conventions and meet staff and each other. We have friends on staff. There are staff who were freelancers before they started working at Paizo. There are a lot of very deep social connections and bonds between staff and freelancers. And so many of us have known for a long time that maybe some things inside the company weren't the best. But what do you do with that information? As a freelancer, we can't change the way that Paizo as a business is run. And so when the information started coming out in the week before Gen Con, a lot of us were kind of feeling very lost. We didn't know what to do with the situation that was unfolding before us. And a lot of us wondered, is it ethical for us to continue doing business with this company? Right? Like, there's so many people on staff who we care for deeply and who have shielded us from the way that the company inside is. So anything toxic within Paizo, it doesn't come to us because it stops at the developer that we work with. They filter all of that. So the relationship that we have with Paizo, it doesn't contain any of that. And it was so heartbreaking to learn how much we had been shielded from. And so many of us just came to the conclusion that it wasn't okay, and that we were going to step up, we were going to be the shield, we were going to return the favor.
Yeah, it was definitely great learning about how the freelancers all managed to be what I would consider like the foundation of United Paizo workers, because you guys are, we actually learned yesterday about how much of every book is freelance based, and it's
Yeah.
truly great seeing all that come into one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
during our talk with Jason and Katini yesterday, we learned that at least according to them, upwards of around 40 freelancers had started either
Mhm.
withholding their work or like refusing to take new work from Paizo
Mhm.
in an effort of solidarity with the union, which was
Yeah.
amazing.
Jenny, how did that feel, seeing people that you work with, maybe, not officially with the company, well, even officially with the company, but not as employees, being on a official Paizo end?
It was really amazing. So when that first came about was probably with what kind of it didn't spark our unionization efforts, but some of the things that kind of acted as a catalyst to get us, kind of give us the opportunity to get this moving and get this going quickly at this time were some of the allegations that were made on Twitter. Like I guess it's been about a month now, like a little over a month. And I
Mhm.
remember the first few days were terrible because we all saw this and we're like, there's just like the despair of knowing, there's some folks who had a worse experience, and just seeing all the dirty laundry aired and feeling all kinds of mixed feelings about, I agree with some of this stuff, but I also work for this company and I value my job. So how do I act, on the internet? Like, how do I, I don't want to support the company, but I also don't want to like outright trash the company, because that's not really what should happen either. So we were all kind of very stressed. And this was the week of Gen Con. And then when the freelancers announced that they were doing their concerted effort to basically like kind of unofficially strike, uh, almost all of us as devs and designers, and definitely myself, we just felt this like surge of community. And I still remember how awesome it was during all the like seminars and panels at Gen Con, seeing the freelancers just, Jess was one of those, but like filling the chat with like hearts and like, the little rainbow hearts, and saying solidarity and all these supportive messages, and kind of making sure our chats stayed positive, knowing that we can't answer these questions about any of these allegations or any of the, the work conditions. And I remember when Mike Sayre went on and said solidarity with the freelancers, he like yelled it at the end of his interview, and he had like the first panel, and I was like, heck yeah. And we all like, we stopped wearing our polos, we all wore our just like Paizo t-shirts, and we, in my interview, we did the same thing for like solidarity. And so that was so cool and so like buoying in terms of my mental state and my emotional state. And then as it continued on, it's like, okay, technically this makes my job harder because, I can't assign things right now, and I have a module to assign and whatnot, but I understood it and I fully support that decision. And it just, to know that they were doing it for us specifically was just like really humbling, and just like, I love the community that we have. Like,
Yeah.
it's
It was
incredible.
an incredibly hard decision to reach as well, because we did all of this privately amongst ourselves. We didn't consult the devs before making this choice, and we weren't making this choice publicly either until the union announcement from United Paizo workers. We didn't say, anywhere in the public on social media that we were withholding our labor. That was something that we just we were opening negotiations with Paizo on, and we were giving them the opportunity to keep the whole thing behind closed doors so it didn't become more of a scandal, because protecting the people who work at Paizo was the entire reason that we were doing this. So sorry, I'm tearing up.
It's okay.
it's
I cried.
beautiful.
Oh,
I cried yesterday. I was like,
Yeah,
I'll probably
yeah.
do it again. But
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's got to be like a crazy, amazing
It was-
experience to have.
It was so difficult for us to reach the decision to withdraw our labor because we had so much fear that it would roll down on the devs and that it would make their job harder. And we were doing it because we wanted to protect them and we wanted to make things better for them. But there was the possibility that they would see it as a betrayal. And before we did it, we didn't know how they would react. And so Gen Con weekend and the panels were powerful for staff to see the support from us because we wanted to make sure that they understood that we were withholding our labor, but we still stood by them. And we wanted to do whatever we had to do to make sure that those panels weren't going to go bad for them, that the chats didn't start asking them for answers. So there were certain panels that were particularly important to us that we made sure that we were there for. Most of us were there for all of them. I attended Gen Con like it was my job, but that first panel was incredibly important. And the diversity and inclusion panel, we wanted to make sure that we were there in the chat, watching the chat, making sure that no one came at the devs, because some of the allegations were about the inclusive content in Pathfinder. And going on that panel after those accusations, like, I can't even imagine how difficult it was to go on that panel and represent the way that your company is being inclusive when accusations of transphobia have been leveled against you like this. How do you do that? So that one was a big one that we wanted to make sure we were there for. And then also the freelancing for Paizo panel was also an important one, because the devs speaking on that panel at that point knew that we were withholding our labor. The public didn't know, but the devs knew. And they had to go on a panel telling people how they can get into freelancing for Paizo, knowing that their freelancers were refusing work. And so that was another big one that we wanted to make sure that we were there and we were in the chat saying that working with these devs is a joy and that we love working with them, and that if you have the opportunity to work with these developers, you should take it, because that's how we feel, and that's the reason that we acted at all, out of love and solidarity for these people.
Yeah, I think it's really important that people recognize that it's not everybody at Paizo. It's, it is sometimes just select individuals, and but everyone that we've talked with, or I've had the privilege of talking with, have been nothing but openly supportive, openly just overall great people to just like talk with. So it's truly great because I don't see a lot of other like industries being able to have like such a passion behind it. With like everyone I've talked to is super enthusiastic about what they do, why they love doing it, like what it's like on a day-to-day basis to be, working on Space Wizards, or, whatever the latest gunslinger, I don't know, techno bobble is for that week.
Yeah.
So it's really great to, I remember because I was watching that freelancer live stream, because I won't lie, I want one day want to work on a book for Paizo. I'm a nerd. I think it's truly showing me definitely a different context, because I remember like I was taking notes during that panel because I was just so like in tune with it. So I want to talk a little bit about now, where do you see this union going? now that you guys are accepted? Because I know
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned that the contracts haven't been talked about yet. What is the next steps that we would be potentially seeing? I know that's a leave it for Monday kind of like action list, but
It's fine. It's fine. I'm more than happy to talk about it. So our next step as a union internally is UPW. Well, we have a couple of next steps. The main one is we have to negotiate for a contract with the executives or the leadership team of Paizo. And the way that will work is that we will have a couple of representatives from UPW that we will democratically elect that we want to represent us. We have not done that yet. So I guess that's the next step. And then those folks will go along with a CWA representative who we are meeting next week to make sure that, we mesh and everything, is good. And we'll go together with whoever Paizo, the company, wants to send into that room. And we'll sit together. We'll go through the books. We'll see things about, increase of salary is one of our major points. And that's kind of our first point, because we have a lot of people at our company who are really not making what's a living wage in Seattle area. And that is one of our biggest concerns. But again, we'll see that budget and we'll see if Paizo truly can't afford more than just, a little bit of a raise to bring those people out of the poverty level, then sure, that's all we're going to push for. But if we, when talking to those executives and looking at the books, see that, hey, there's a lot of money just kind of hanging out here, like we're probably going to push for more. And then we'll make an offer, which has to be voted on by all of our members. It's majority. Then they will make possibly a counter offer, or they'll accept our offer, hopefully. So it could last for, some of these last for like 6 months to like a year. So we are already formally a union and we are no longer at will employees. We are now like protected from, random firings without reason given. But to get those benefits of like trying to negotiate for a raise or better medical benefits, that will come, later as a result of that work. The other thing we want to do is we're working on registering UPW as a nonprofit organization. Since we've been taking in money for the merchandise on our website and on Redbubble, we are wanting to use that money towards sort of form a mutual aid fund or something like that for, those lower paid employees, and for, say someone is terminated, or whatever, like we want to use it. We'll be voting on how to use that, but we're working on that so that we can actually elect like a treasurer and people that can be in charge of the money, because, money, it makes things more difficult. So those are our immediate next steps. And, it's not the most glamorous thing, but that's sort of the work that we'll be engaged in next. And other than that, I honestly would like to see, I know, Jess, you tweeted about this not the other day, so I hope I can say this, but, you had mentioned something about a freelancers guild, which is something I remember being talked about way back when I was just a freelancer and not also an employee. So I'm kind of hoping that our unionization leads to something like that, like maybe a TTRPG writers guild, so that our freelancers and contractors, our contract editors and such, can be protected. Because unfortunately, the UPW won't protect them because they're not like normal employees, they're contract workers, but they could definitely form some sort of a guild, something like that, and we would support them in that. And I'm hoping that other more game companies will start to really see what we did and how successful it was, and start to have those conversations and, start to organize if that's what their workers want. And I'm sure it is. Like we've all heard some bad stories about game, like if you think about any game company, there's probably been some sort of allegations, right? Like especially
namely the recent Blizzard stuff.
Oh
Yeah, all the
yeah,
stuff that
yes.
happened recently with Blizzard, EA, Activision.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping that, they're video games, but that they're still game workers, and Code CWA is all about trying to organize game workers and tech workers together. And we are part of that. So I'm hoping we're just going to see like a landslide happening in the coming years. So yeah.
That sounds amazing, especially the idea of like a freelancers guild. That sounds like a great idea. I actually hadn't really considered the protections of freelancers as, they're not really unionized workers, but they still deserve protection.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say about it yet. It's a great idea. It's an idea I want to see happen. That's why I tweeted about it. But
Still very in the
it's
planning
a
phase.
it's a big industry, and I sent out an open invite to anybody who wanted to be present for the conversation, and that's resulted in a lot of people. So it's a little overwhelming right now, especially coming off of like 5 weeks, 6 weeks of organizing around the Paizo situation. So no news yet, but we'll see where it all goes. If you look at Paizo's like organizational structure, like the titles of people at Paizo, nobody has the title of writer. That doesn't exist on Paizo. That's not done on staff.
Yeah.
Game design is done on staff. So like creating a whole new class is done by staff. But the writing in the books, even when it's done by staff, is done as freelance. Nobody does that on the clock. Anytime you see a Paizo employee, their name on like an adventure path, they took that as freelance on top of their existing job. They didn't write that at Paizo. They wrote that at home.
The only exception would be if we say there was a freelancer that, had extenuating circumstances and couldn't fully turn in their
Yes.
contracted work. Sometimes we will step in but that's part of dev. Like that's part of the development or design process of knowing that if you didn't get everything needed, that you will have to fill in the blanks or work with the author. So, but yeah, that's all stuff that we do as freelancers. So, I mean, I'm still also a freelancer as well as a Paizo developer because I take a significant amount of freelance. I've told myself I'm going to take a break just because I love it, but I need a break. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, I mean, if that happened, that would be something I would be interested in joining too, because I freelance for Paizo and sometimes other companies. So yeah, it would be really awesome.
I think especially after writing a whole AP, I believe when I was talking with James Case, when I was doing a little bit of a personal interview with him, he was just like, all right, I wrote the last Ruby Phoenix. I've done, well, he couldn't say Ruby Phoenix at the time because the third book wasn't announced yet. But as someone who's currently playing through all of it, I definitely know he wrote the last one. He was just like, I'm done. I can't do it. I was like, I'm breaking. I'm taking a break. I love my job, but I'm not writing one of those for a while. I was just like, all right, I can't blame you on that one. Yeah.
They're
So
a lot of
speaking
work,
of,
yeah.
yeah, speaking of writing APs, I was told about the Drift Crashers AP going along with the Drift Crisis, which I am super looking for. I want to play the Drift Crisis personally. If I can ever organize a game, that'd be great. So can you tell us a little bit about Jessica? You could probably kick this one off. What is the Drift Crashers? Let's just talk Starfinder for a little bit.
Okay, well, Drift Crisis is an event. It's like the way that comic books would have like an event that happens across multiple lines, and they have all the crossovers and everything, right? And it's like this thing takes years, and everybody is involved in the event, right? So Drift Crisis is like that, and so there is a Drift Crisis book that is going to introduce like what is the Drift Crisis, what is going on, what are the ramifications across the galaxy, and then some like adventure seeds for how can the Drift Crisis affect your game. Here are a bunch of things that are going on in the universe, right? And then Drift Crashers is one of the like Drift Crisis crossover elements where it's bringing the AP line in on the Drift Crisis. And so Drift Crashers is an adventure path that follows a starship crew who is impacted by the Drift Crisis.
I'm super excited. I know there will be one other AP and some modules, or one or two modules, and probably a few Starfinder Society scenarios that will deal with the drift crisis, so you can kind of play through it or cherry pick and build a campaign. But I'm so excited about Drift Crashers because it's just like, nope, this is it. Like, you just got thrown into this.
It's bonkers.
It's so bonkers. Like, I saw that outline and I was like, are you serious? Like, because this was Tondro. I was like, we're gonna do this? And he's like, yeah, we are. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the drift crisis and the drift crash, what happens is the drift stops working, right? And so the galaxy relies on the drift for travel,
pretty big deal.
for communication. The entire way the Starfinder universe is constructed is like near space. It's not that they're actually near each other. It's just that they're all near a drift beacon. And then the drift goes out. And none of these places are connected to each other anymore. They were near space once, but now they're who knows where. And so when you do drift travel normally in Starfinder, you go into the drift, and the drift pulls various parts of the multiverse into itself when you do drift travel. So there's like pockets of various elemental planes and all sorts of stuff in the drift. And the way the Drift Crashers adventure path starts off, and I know I'm allowed to say this because Jake tweeted it, so I know I'm allowed to say this. The way the adventure path begins is you try to go to the drift, and instead you go to hell.
Yes.
What a jump! All right, guys,
so
we're gonna go to
level 1.
Vesk 3 and then hell.
Yeah, so you're level 1. You're in hell. That
hell of a start.
That was
intended.
Yeah. So that would be why I was asked to write this adventure.
Planar bullshit. Yeah, I don't know if y'all curse on your.
Oh, you could feel free.
Planar bullshit is widely known to be like one of her expertises in terms of subject matter because of all your planescape work and everything. So yeah, that's gonna be. I can't wait. I saw it because I wrote the second volume, so I saw a lot of what she did, and it's gonna be really, really wild.
Guys, part 2, not to spoil anything, is going right up to heaven.
More wild than going to hell. I don't know about that.
Well, I can tell you, part 2, don't want to give too many spoilers that aren't approved, but in part 2, you literally meet the goddess Desna and have brunch with her.
So
that's it. We're dropping all the other campaigns.
Amazing, James.
We just go from hell to heaven. I mean, that's...
Desna's in my top 5 gods.
We gotta get this campaign up and running ASAP, man.
Oh my god.
Yes,
it's gonna be a good AP.
It is. And then the third volume is gonna get even weirder if that's possible. I don't know how much I can spoil. That one's written by Ron Lundeen, but it goes back into some things that they discovered in the prior volumes, and it's just gonna be really weird. So
go from hell to meeting a goddess, and then it somehow gets weirder after that. Cannot wait to see.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Sounds like a Deadpool storyline.
You know, Tondro comes up with some really good ideas. Some of the best, like, honestly, lately, some of our really coolest AP and module ideas, or like the starting point for them, have been like something he just randomly said, and in a creative meeting, and it's like he just says some random thing and we're like, that's really weird, Jake. But then you start thinking about it, you're like, wait, but what if it was like this, and what if we did this? And it's like, yeah. So no, and he's got a background and he loves comics, so like if it sounds like a comic book storyline in terms of how wacky and over the top it is, then there's probably a reason for that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, just some of the crazy shit that's happened, like officially in canon for Paizo, like APs alone. Like, I played Reign of Winter as my first ever Pathfinder 1. Like, jumping into Pathfinder 1 with Reign of Winter. My dad was like, all right, look, you guys get Iron Gods or you guys get Reign of Winter. And my dad was like, but at one point you end up in Russia. I was like, yes, that one.
I remember when I was first getting into Pathfinder, James described to me, what was it, Sorcerer Rasputin? I've never played Starfinder, but if you guys, with the descriptions that you guys keep giving, I mean, it sounds like something I will definitely have to give a try.
Starfinder Society is the home of some of Paizo's wackiest bullshit. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
There's a scenario where you're like contestants on a reality TV show.
Basically, you, like the society, is asked to send a team of Starfinders to be on this reality show with Zoe, the undead media mogul. Yes, and basically the whole time you're trying to like delve into this like moon or like this false moon called Salvation's End. And the whole time you have this undead camera crew following your party around, and they interact with the party. And there's also the best part is the booth, because when your adventuring partners piss you off or do something really stupid, you can go sit in the booth and you can trash talk them like any good reality show.
You can do the reality TV show
Yes.
Confessional. It's iconic.
Yes. It's
Oh
so
my God.
good. It's so fun.
That
yeah,
is
it's-
amazing.
So yeah,
So there's that one.
it's pretty.
And
rare.
then
Yeah.
there's also strawberry machine cake.
yes.
What is
Yes,
strawberry
Jenny can talk
machine
more
cake?
about this.
Yeah, you're gonna have to clarify more on what strawberry machine cake is.
So Strawberry Machine Cake is they're a band that I think may have as much of a following as like some real bands now, because of how much people love them. But basically they're kind of like they're inspired by like J-rock and J-pop, but obviously that, you know, Japan does not exist in the Pact world. So, you know, there's like actual like cultures in Starfinder setting that are kind of drawn into this, but they're this like super popular loud band, all wear like these awesome costumes on stage and have like holographic shows. And yeah, there's a scenario where you go to their concert on Songbird Station, and some mysterious stuff happens, so you have to try to save the concert. And spoilers, don't listen for the next 30 seconds or so if you haven't played it and want to. At a certain point you may or may not fight a giant mech on a stage. So yeah, it's pretty wild. And they've come back. They've appeared in a couple other scenarios. I'm sure they will again. People ask all the time for them, and they were created by Eleanor Farron, an absolute work of genius in my opinion.
I'm introducing that booth mechanic now, even across like all games. I just
so
want
good.
Even in campaigns where it wouldn't make any sense, I just a platform for characters to shit talk other characters.
Yeah.
Our next campaign, we can have the booth. We're just gonna call it Keeping Up with the Kobolds.
That's it. That's what we're doing. That's the next
That's it.
campaign.
That's the
Everybody
game.
has the celebrity archetype is their free archetype, and everybody's a kobold. I don't know what it's doing.
Kobold reality show as
Kobold
a
reality show.
campaign.
But then there's
Yeah.
the one unique person. They don't have to play kobold. It's just the one person.
Oh, he's a goblin who thinks he's a kobold. We can just
Yup,
bring in
yup.
that little bit of artwork. Deadly, I'll send you the photo.
Yeah, let's hope.
One thing I want to talk about is, would we eventually get to see a Starfighter Second Edition, but with 3-action economy, like we
Sure,
do
you
with
get this.
Pathfinder?
I'm sure you get this question all,
All
the
the
time.
I mean, I think that would be super cool. It's right now there's no immediate plans to do it, but maybe
That's
maybe
what they
in the
once said
future.
about Pathfinder, and then we got a
Yeah,
second
yeah.
edition of that.
Yeah.
So that means there's Starfinder Second Edition somewhere deep in those dev vaults that we are just not allowed to know about.
Maybe one day.
Can neither confirm
Pathfinder
nor
third
deny.
edition?
The reaction economy is really great, and I'm surprised more people. Well, I guess they may have in home games, but I feel like if people were so inclined, converting Starfinder adventures and you'd have to do a lot of conversion. But if you could convert that to like the 3-action economy, that'd
There
be
is-
super slick. So
Yeah, I
There's a
believe I've
Discord
seen.
for exactly that I'm a part of, that I don't really communicate on there, but they do a lot of great work for converting actually Starfinder into the 3-action economy, which is bonkers. They have the time to do that. That is a
Yeah.
whole system rewrite.
But no, I like PF2 a lot. I spend more time on Starfinder, mostly because I mean that's what I work on, and I love the science fantasy aspect of it. There's only so much my brain can can hold within it at a certain time. But the Pathfinder stuff, especially lately, is just so cool. And I love that system. It's very easy to learn as a player, I think.
So the biggest Starfinder release that just came out is actually the
Starfinder Tech Revolution.
can we talk about some of the cool things that we found in there? Mainly, the main thing I want to talk about is mechs. So I'm a sucker for mechs.
I am a big mech fan as well. And there's a lot of cool stuff in that book, but I will say mechs are, I mean, they're my favorite thing that's in there. Having played some of the, like, because my home game, Thirsty, who's one of my coworkers, GMs for us, and Thurston Hillman. Anyway, and he has kind of used us as guinea pigs in the past for things. And I remember he's like, we're going to do kind of an early play test of the mechs because we had access to like the files, but before it was out in the world. So we did that, and it was just so fun. Building a mech, there's a lot under the hood. There's a lot of customization. It's super cool. But much like the starship system, to build a starship, it can be a little bit complicated. Like it's more complex than just building a character. There is math and there's like points you have to assign and whatnot. But once that's happened, mech combat is just regular combat. You just have a big ass robot that you can stomp around in, and you might have like a plasma line weapon that just, pews like a whole line of enemies down. Or you might have some super cool like sword and shield combo that you can smash people with. So I would say if you're thinking about playing mechs and getting Tech Revolution, do it. You will not be disappointed. One of my dear friends who's like a super battle tech and like mech warrior person has actually come out and said, no, this is just as good. It's just different. Like he was worried and he played it and he liked it. So hey, that's a good recommendation from a person who's not as biased as I am. But it's super fun. Thirsty started out by giving us mechs that we didn't build, and we just played with them. And I'd say if you're a GM and you want to introduce that, that's probably the best. Like, you build 1 or 2 models and let them have it and play with it. And then once they understand, and it won't take long because it's just normal initiative combat. But once they know what their mech can do, you could maybe let them switch some things out, customize some of the weapons or the shields or whatever. And then you can start letting them, if they want to get under the hood and start building custom mechs. But gosh, it's really fun.
I know before we recorded, we talked about James and his Power Rangers. And
Yeah.
You've
I've been a
essentially
nerd
just
since
given us
I'm a kid.
Megazords.
Yeah,
It's true. I will run a Power Rangers game one day with those mech rules. You guys will be fighting giant Zord.
Yeah, so it's like if you want to do the like Super Sentai like Power Rangers or Voltron, like all these mechs that come together into one, you can do that. There are multiple operator mechs. If you're more into like the whole battle tech thing, or like Macross mechs, like you can do that. Like, really, there's a little something for everyone. And since it is science fantasy, there's some weird stuff like there's like spell, there's like Aeon Stone, like circuitry in the mechs. Like, there's certain things you can do with spells. So there's a lot there. You could definitely make that campaign reality with those rules.
Sounds awesome.
So one thing I wanted to also talk about was what it's like to work on Starfinder, but then in context of designing challenges for your players via the Alien Archive system, which is for people who don't play Starfinder, is essentially bestiaries for Pathfinder, but in space. So can we talk a little bit about maybe some contributes? Jessica, starting off with you. I noticed that you have Alien Archives 3 and 4 listed. Both great ones. My favorite addition to them being the otter people. But that's only because we have a friend who's super obsessed with otters. So
The what?
Oh, you didn't know about that? Oh, I said this to a friend of ours who's super. Yeah, there's otter people now. They are absolutely adorable. In Starfinder, and like the Skittermander, I want to play with them a lot.
I'm looking this up now. Oh, that's
Oh.
amazing.
Yeah, The otter people are incredible, like truly
Yes.
incredible.
They're so cute.
My contributions to the Alien Archives primarily are the Spectra, the outsiders that are native to the Drift. When Alien Archive 3 was being assigned, I got on the book because one of the creatures in there, the Cephaloom, had been created at PaizoCon that year during a panel. And I attended that panel and I contributed to creating the creature collaboratively with everybody else in attendance. And when it came time to name the creature, I proposed the name that ended up getting used, Cephaloom. And then because I had named it and because I was getting into starting to freelance for Paizo, I was given the opportunity to write that creature for actually appearing in the book. But once I got on that book and once I saw the outline and I saw that there was a new outsider race native to the Drift being assigned, I shot my shot and I pled to be assigned that creature and to be trusted with the task of creating an entirely new outsider race.
What I tell you about planar bullshit, like this is her thing.
Oh,
This
She's
is my
great
thing.
at it.
This is what I love. And so I was given that assignment and I was basically able to create whatever I thought was the best representation of an outsider native to the Drift, given that prompt, outsider native to the Drift.
We love planar bullshit. I think everybody should be more involved with planar bullshit. I mean,
Yes.
I don't want to give any like spoilers or away for our podcast that we do, Roll for Idiocy, but some planar bullshit is my favorite go-to when it comes to storytelling. I converted the precog class from Starfinder to second edition because one of our players, Magnus, when that class was announced for Starfinder, he was like, I want this, give me. And me being ambitious, said yes without knowing what I was getting into. Long story short, we ended up having to fight the evil version of his character, and we start pulling from the multiverse of potentially more people that can be replicated. So there's a Doctor Who special called The Five Doctors. So basically all the doctors are together and they're like, okay, if any of us die, we're in trouble. And I was just like, this is the perfect trope because I love sci-fi and fantasy, and messing up with some planar bullshit is my forte. Honestly, if you guys can have it as an audience, please send evil versions of all your players to them. That is a gift from me to you.
you mentioned earlier the Five Doctors episode of Doctor Who, and I think that transitions well into this question. I think Jessica, I'll let you start out with this. What media, or like popular media, books, comics, movies, what do you think influences your writings the most?
Ooh.
I can say that when I was writing the Dandy for APG, I was very influenced because at that time I just, by matter of coincidence, happened to be rereading Jonathan Strange or Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. And so that was a tremendous influence on writing the Dandy and making sure that with this class you would be able to play Lascelles or Drawlight. Other stuff, it's difficult because like I'm so into tabletop RPGs that like at a certain point your tabletop RPG design starts being influenced by other tabletop RPGs, right?
Yeah.
So
It's like an Ouroboros.
yeah. So a lot of the stuff that like my love for planar bullshit is very influenced by the Planescape setting for second edition Dungeons and Dragons. I love that setting. I love it so much. And so a lot of my love for doing anything planar comes back to that setting and the fan community that that setting had, because it's much more than just the material that was published for the setting. There was a lot of fan created content, the same way that we kind of have like Wayfinder now, right? And the way that we have like the third party content put out for Pathfinder now. It's a little bit similar to that, but not completely, because there used to be, there's not so much anymore, but there used to be that if you were really into like a particular setting, there would be a message board online that was like dedicated to that setting. And so there would be a message board that was like where all of the Ravenloft people would do all of their like Ravenloft homebrew and post about like, this is what I did in my campaign, and everybody's campaigns would influence each other, and everybody would share all of like the NPCs they'd created and their plot threads, and everything would get kind of interwoven together. And Planescape had one of those as well. And there is a lot of stuff that has influenced me from Planescape that is actually just fan works and the work of other non-professionals or people who are now freelancers or who now work in the industry. But at the time, they were just posting like, this is what I did in my campaign. And the thing that I love so much about Planescape is that it takes the like the cosmology and the multiverse, and it kind of extrapolates from alignment. So like you have alignment, and then you have the planes, and each plane is aligned with an alignment, and it kind of extrapolates like this plane isn't even an actual physical place. Like you have the inner planes where you have like your earth, air, fire, water, and then you have your outer planes where you have spiritual concepts, ideas, morality, a plane of good, a plane of evil. And these two things merge together to create the prime material plane, which is a place of infinite possibilities. You can have things that are created out of everything, the synthesis, like the physical and the metaphysical together. But as soon as you start separating those things back out and you're looking at the planes themselves, you have like the plane of fire, and that's just fire. And what is fire, and what is a plane of fire? And like on a conceptual level, knowing that you have separated the physical from the metaphysical, like fire as like a base building block, as an element, as an atom, what is this thing, right? And then you look at the outer planes and it's the same way. Like, what is a plane that is just like the concept of evil? What does that look like? What is a place that is a concept? And how, like, what happens to this plane if something that is counter to that concept starts growing there? If goodness starts growing in a plane that metaphysically is just evil, what does that look like? What kind of story is that?
That is
That's the stuff that I like.
Yeah,
So
that's some
Yeah.
mind-boggling stuff.
I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say though, the plane of fire is just hot. I think that's the only real attribute you could give it to it.
Jenny, how about you?
Yeah. So, there's I definitely second what Jess was saying about there comes a certain time where, your writing is influenced by other tabletops and like games you've played and games your friends have played and told you about. So that's definitely a thing. But for me, my big influences are I enjoy there's, if anyone's listening to this and they've heard me do an interview before, you know what I'm gonna say. My favorite games of all time are the Drakengard Mir series by Yoko Taro, and so those are a huge influence on my work and the way I want to approach game writing. Because one thing that Yoko Taro's studio does is they truly tell a story that matches its medium. Like they make the medium work towards telling the story. They'll integrate things like saves and replays and playing different branches of the game into the actual story, which I think is brilliant. And I think that those games have shown some of the best uses of the video game media, and I hope to do stuff like that for my medium, which is tabletops. So it kind of inspired me to think about, as much as I like the themes of it, which are very like existential type of themes, and thinking about AIs and what is the nature of humanity and that sort of thing.
I love that stuff.
Oh God, yes. That's my shit. So that, in addition to that, it really has made me think about how I create games and what is possible. It just kind of makes my brain work in a different way too.
Mhm.
thinking about those games. And I'm also I like mechs a lot. Another thing I'm really into, I watch a lot of anime, and the Macross series is something that I absolutely adore, because it's basically intergalactic like mech fights, but also with pop idols singing and helping everyone fight better. And that kind of thing just encapsulates what I like about science fantasy, because it's just like you can have this big military serious battle, and then there's this like pop idol who walks out onto the hull of a spaceship and starts singing, and she has like holographic clothes that change, and it's like this concert. It's like, and it becomes a music video, but it's also like the battle for like a world. And so that kind of thing also inspires me quite a lot.
Screw the Space Marines. I need cat girl hologram to walk
Space
onto
pop
the field.
star. Something you will almost only ever see in anime.
Yeah, exactly. But stuff like that is just, I find it inspiring because there are elements that I can use to influence what I do for Starfinder. Obviously, some things don't fit right in exactly. And that's fine. They shouldn't. I don't want to copy anything, but I do draw a lot of inspiration from that, and just the feel of it. Like I like the juxtaposition of silly, wacky stuff with things that are very serious and examine these very real themes that make you as a player actually sit and think about them. So both of those that I just named are probably pretty big on that contrast.
Now, from this conversation, I have learned that both mechs and space pop stars are indeed possible in Starfinder.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there is an idol or icon. Sorry, there is an icon theme, so can.
I need to play this game where there's mechs and
pop stars.
And I want midway through the like
undead game show
battle. Yeah. I just want the giant like climax of the battle, and then the cat girl goes into the booth, and then just it's like, oh my God, I can't even stand what this is. The Megatrons are being like so annoying right now. I'd totally play that character. That'd be so much fun. Awesome.
Well, you could make a pop idol group when you play Drift Crashers.
You could.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, it could have been on the way to a concert, and then you got drawn into this, and it's like, oh God, what do we do? I like this framing. I like that.
We're all envoys. No other class needed.
I'm just imagining the Hex girls from Scooby-Doo just beating the shit out of people in space.
So good. I would watch
that. You could
that.
Truly
that
make
stream.
Gem and the holograms, and your rivals could be the misfits, and just have the most insane adventure. So as we're starting to get wrapped up here, is there anything the audience should have a big takeaway, where to find you, or anything else you guys want to touch on before we start fully wrapping up? Jenny,
Solidarity.
Yep,
Oh,
solidarity. Absolutely.
Solidarity.
I would just tell everyone, unitedpaizoworkers.org is where you can read our blogs and see announcements and get a link to our cool merchandise, which we have a Redbubble right now where you can get stickers and with this super cool logo that you can kind of see and behind me there, and t-shirts and things like that. But we are talking about expanding to other like sites, because Redbubble does take a pretty decent percentage, and we were just trying to set things up quickly, but we're thinking about other things that all goes toward the union. That will be money that goes into our nonprofit, and we will use for we'll be transparent with it, but we will use it for like mutual aid or expenses for us having meetings and things like that. And then for me personally, I am on Twitter at Jen Jayski, so just JenJski, shortened version of my name. And I do stream on Twitch, although I'm on hiatus currently. I am hoping to possibly start a Starfinder game streamed in next year sometime, and that is Jezebel77, where you can find that. I also play random video games and chat.
Hopefully we can try and get that in the YouTube description on the Deadly D8 video.
Yeah.
And Jessica, how about you?
I'm a little bit annoying to find on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Tectonomancer, TECTONOMANCER.
Yeah, it took me a little bit of searching when I found out that we were doing an interview with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hard one. But I also am part of the No Direction podcast network, and I play on the Valiant actual play podcast with it's GM'd by Luis Loza, and I play that with Avi, Owen, and Rob. And I play Ziadani, who is a Azimar druid, and the game takes place on the continent of Arcadia.
Ooh,
It's pretty cool.
We do like
Yeah.
Arcadia.
the frontier.
I mainly like the firearms. That's just no.
I like I like the beast guns.
Oh yeah, we on Valiant we all have gunslinger free archetype.
Nice.
as
So,
every campaign should.
We have a homebrewed one that Luis wrote like last year or something right now. So it works a little bit different than the one that just released, just because we didn't have it yet. But some of us shoot our guns more than others. For example, Owen Casey Stevens' Bard character prefers to, instead of firing his gun, he uses them to hit people when he casts telekinetic projectile.
That's one way to
Yes.
use it.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a pretty good time, Valiant. It's a good podcast. We have fun.
Well, that's the most important thing. So
Mhm.
that's what we're here for, is to have fun. So
All right. Well, I want to thank our guests for coming on today, and for you guys for making it this far, listening to whatever insane shit we had to say. Please check out our two amazing guests. They are genuinely fun people to interact with. You can check us out on the Deadly D8 YouTube channel, or you can get the full interview on our podcast on Spotify or Anchor, wherever we publish to. That's kind of where you can find us. Or you can follow us on Twitter, prof_idiocy. We do some pretty insane shit all the time. Or yeah, we're just weird. This is what we kind of branded ourselves as, so might as well jump
We
into
got
it.
our 1st year anniversary coming up, so
Oh yeah, I forgot
Anniversary
about that.
episode coming up soon. So thank you for listening, and we hope to see you in the next video. Bye.
bye.
bye. I like the juxtaposition of silly, wacky stuff with things that are very serious and examine, these very real themes that make you as a player actually sit and think about them.